We have studied lots of many types of engines, two-stroke engine, four-stroke engine, steam engine, single-acting engine, double-acting engine. Now, with all these things in mind, I think you know, all of you know how does the engine work, what is a compression stroke, power stroke, suction, compression, power, exhaust. Okay, in a two-stroke engine, suction compression and exhaust occurs together. Suction and fuel input, everything occurs together. Okay, so depending on the type of engine, the amount of torque available in the effective torque available in the crankshaft keeps on varying. Okay, why? Because in a four-stroke engine, suction, compression, power, exhaust, the power comes only one fourth of the entire 360 degree 720-degree rotation. Once in two rotations you get power only once. Okay, so one fourth of the entire rotation only you are going to get power. In 25% of the time duration only you are going to get power. That power is to be handled and sustained till you get the next power stroke. Now this creates some irregularity, fluctuation in the kinetic energy available in the crankshaft. Okay, do you understand my point? Now we need to measure this fluctuation. So that is the aim of this. Now this is called as a turning moment diagram. Okay, so how do you do it? So let us take the turning moment diagram, or the crank effort diagram is a graphical representation of turning moment or crank effort at various crank positions in a given engine. Okay, this is an example diagram. This diagram is a double acting steam engine diagram. Okay, if you see close, just observe closely, the x-axis has crank angle theta. Okay, y-axis has the torque value starting from 0. What is the value of torque? So if you see here, double acting steam engine, the piston, now it is, let us say the piston is at TDC, top dead center or inner dead center. Piston starts moving, steam comes in, gradually you get torque. So there is a point where you get a maximum torque out of this. Single stroke I am talking, from left to right. Okay, for one stroke, this is the diagram. At some point the torque becomes 0 when you reach the bottom dead center or outer dead center. Again, this is a double acting cylinder, therefore another power stroke you are having from that end. Okay, similarly the same thing repeats itself. So you are going to have peak torque 2 times in a complete rotation of the crank. Okay, but anyway, if you look carefully, you can see there is no constancy of torque in the crankshaft. The torque keeps fluctuating. What will happen if this happens in an actual engine, in an actual automobile? If this is the case, then the speed of rotation of your engine is continuously changing. Now that is not really desirable. Okay, the turning moment is so that's whatever I have explained now is given here. So if you see, torque is maximum at the 2 points where theta is 90 degree and 270 degree. Okay, in a double acting steam engine, right? So, but no, internal combustion engines are not double acting, so the fluctuation should be more, correct? So this is shown. Whatever I have told now, the same thing is explained theoretically here. Okay. Now we are going to see a 4-stroke petrol or diesel engine, IC engine, 4-stroke engine. Look at the torque variation in the crankshaft. How much variation is there? Only during the power stroke. Let us say this is my 0 torque line. Okay. There are some points where the torque is negative. What does that mean? You are going to absorb energy from the crankshaft to keep the engine moving. That energy is not going to the wheels. Just to keep the engine piston moving up and down in strokes where the power is not getting, power output you are not getting, there the torque available in the crankshaft is utilized by the engine to compensate for the inertia of the parts. Only then your engine will move to the next power stroke. So for that you have to take some power from the crankshaft and keep it moving, and at those points you are going to have negative torque. It means what? The torque is going to reduce by this amount, then by this amount. During power stroke you are going to get enormous amount of torque imparted to the crankshaft. Okay, so now this variation is not really desirable. It keeps fluctuating. Okay, observe the variation in turning moment during suction stroke. So pressure goes below the atmospheric pressure. Okay, so the theoretical explanation is given to you. I don't want to go detail into that. This will be shared to you. Please read it. Okay. So now what is one way to overcome this is going for a multi-cylinder engine. If I go for a multi-cylinder engine, for example, this is a 3-cylinder engine. Now, very famous example for a 3-cylinder engine automobile. Can anybody give me? Anyone online? 3-cylinder automobile, very widely used car in India. Anyone? It's the most sold car in India. Which is the most sold car in India? Nobody knows. Hey, nobody's answered. Give make a guess. Anybody can try. Which is the most widely sold car in India? Not Hyundai. Hyundai.
Maruti Suzuki, sir.
Yeah. Which car? Tell me specifically.
Maruti Suzuki, sir.
That's a company. Tell me the car name. Not Alto.
Swift Desire, sir. Swift Desire, sir.
Maruti 800 is a 3-cylinder engine. Okay. That is the most widely sold car in India as of now in history. I am not telling what is being sold today. The entire number from the beginning I am telling. The most widely sold 10 million cars were sold. Maruti 800. Okay. So Maruti 800 is a 3-cylinder engine. That's why I'm telling. This example I'm showing you, this graph is taken from the turning moment diagram of a 3-cylinder engine. Okay. So when I increase the number of cylinders, what is happening if you observe? This fluctuation is slowly getting reduced. And the scientific reason behind that, you just think you are going to have 3 power strokes in one complete cycle, correct? If you have 3 cylinders, you are going to arrange the power strokes in such a way that when the power dips down, when the torque dips down, I'm going to get one power stroke there. Another, when the torque minimum comes there, I'm going to get another power stroke. So the average of the torque available in this crankshaft, the variation is reduced because of multiple power strokes available within one complete cycle. So it comes around 2 revolutions for a 4-stroke engine. Okay. So that is how a 3-cylinder engine has a cranks placed at 120 apart. Okay. So that is going to reduce this. So going for multi-cylinder engine is one way to solve this fluctuation of energy problem. Okay. So here I am going to tell you some 2 important factors. Out of all these stories, you have to remember this to solve the problem. The variation of energy above and below the mean resisting torque line is called the fluctuation of energy. So we are going to understand what is the mean resisting torque here. So what is the mean resisting torque? In any turning moment diagram, this general baseline above and below which your torque fluctuates. Okay. So I'm not telling about the zero. Let us go to the previous graph. Let us observe here in this diagram. So there is a line here. Forget the zero line. I'm not talking about the zero line. See here. P mean. There is a line about which there are some points where your torque is below this. There are some points where your torque is above this. Now this point is not the midpoint. Okay, please understand. This is not the midpoint. This point is decided based on how much energy is minimum, how much torque is minimum required to keep the engine moving. Now that much energy you are not able to get outside. That is actually, that amount of energy is actually required to keep your vehicle moving. Now above that only, this zone of power is available for you to accelerate the vehicle. Okay, you imagine you are sitting in a car, you are taking the car from your home to college. Some 50 kilometers you are driving. Okay, I am going to spend some 10 liters of petrol. Now, I will ask you one question. In this 10 liters of petrol, how much percentage of that volume of fuel you have spent is to move the car, and how much fuel is spent to move you? If you think, you will not come around even 2% of the fuel used. The maximum weight you are traveling is your vehicle. Okay, you are going to carry a 1-ton vehicle and you are just some 70 kg, you are sitting inside and you are going to travel. Majority of the fuel spent is keep the vehicle itself moving. You are not a big burden to the vehicle. If the vehicle can move, then you are nothing. Okay, like that, this mean torque is actually the torque required to keep the vehicle sustained motion. The remaining is available for you to increase the speed. You can go fast. If you keep increasing the fuel input, more energy will be coming out from the combustion. Then the speed will go up. Okay. Above the mean torque, whatever is available for you to accelerate the vehicle. Now, this mean torque line, please understand, that is required to keep the sustained motion of the vehicle or the engine or whatever is your case study. Now let's come back here. Okay. Now, you read this sentence once again. The variation of energy above and below the mean resisting torque line is called the fluctuation of energy. Can you understand that? Minimum that much energy is required. What will happen if you go below that? So the engine will automatically slow down. It will absorb its own torque from reverse. From the crankshaft, it takes some torque and moves the piston. Okay. If you have more energy, that higher amount of energy will go to the wheels as acceleration. Your car will speed up. Now this is going to happen every time your wheel rotates. This variation occurs. Okay, this entire graph Okay, don't think that the car will go fast for some time and then it will go slow for some time. This entire thing is going to happen once your wheel turns. The speed variation is within one rotation of your wheel. There is a variation of speed. That variation I am telling. It is not that your car will travel speed fast for 10 seconds and slow for 10 seconds. It is not that. Within one turn of your wheel, this angular variation within one rotation. Okay, for 90 degree it is fast, for 90 degree it is slow. That much fluctuation is there that you cannot sense with your human senses. That much variation is there. Okay. Now, next definition you have to understand the difference between the maximum and the minimum energy point. Let us say this is the maximum energy point, this is the minimum energy point. Now, this difference is called as maximum fluctuation of energy. Okay, that is one point you have to remember, which we will be asked to find in the problems. Okay. Now, how to find the maximum fluctuation of energy? Let us take a turning moment diagram. Now, I'll tell you the procedure, problem procedure, how to do this maximum fluctuation of energy. Okay. Let us take one turning. This such a diagram will be given to you in a turning moment diagram. How do I find this maximum fluctuation of energy? Okay. The horizontal line AG represents the mean torque line. Okay, whatever the line, the blue color horizontal line you see here from point A to point G is the mean torque line. So there is a fluctuation of energy above and below. Continuous supply fluctuation is there due to whatever the reason. Okay, let A1, A3, A5 be the areas above. Now I am going to call this area under the curve. This area by some integration or whatever methods. Mathematically, I am going to find out this area. I am going to declare that as A1, A3, A5 above the line, A2, A4, A6 below the line. In the actual problem, it will be given in millimeter square. Area of the graph in millimeter square. Okay. These areas represent some quantity of energy which is either added or subtracted from the energy of the moving parts of the engine. It's naturally understood. Whatever is excess of mean torque is added. Whatever is less than mean torque is subtracted. Okay. So that is the concept. That's how we do the problem. Very simple. Let the energy in the flywheel be equal to E, capital E at the point A. When I am starting my calculation, when the piston is at PDC or BDC, whatever, when you are starting your cycle, at this point, I am going to consider the mean energy available at the engine output as E. Don't worry what is flywheel. We are going to see that next. Let E be the energy. What is it? E plus A1, correct? So energy available at E, this point is E. Now, after I travel through this much of rotation, this is the crank angle. Theta is my x-axis. So when the engine turns through some angle, okay, so this much of torque is added to me. So E plus A1 is the energy available here. When I reach here, what will happen? What is the energy available? E plus A1 minus A2. So when I reach here, E plus A1 minus A2 plus A3. When I reach here, E plus A1 minus A2 plus A3. Whole thing inside a bracket minus A4. That is how you have to keep accumulating the energy. And finally, when you come here, you will see that you have returned back into the same place because this entire thing is a cycle. Here, whatever may be your problem, you will get again E here. Everything else will get cancelled out, numerical values. So you have come to the starting point again. The cycle repeats itself every time. So the energy at point B is E plus A1. Energy at point C is E plus A1 minus A2. E plus A1 minus A2 plus A3. E plus A1 minus A2 plus A3 minus A4. Same thing until the last. When your graph is above the line, do plus. Below the line, do minus. Don't miss any of the graph. Keep adding it. So point A, point B, point C, point D, point E, point F, point G. Point G, again you will get the same answer as point A. The energy will, this entire thing will get cancelled out. See? So all these things will add up to 0 here. Entire thing will add up to become 0. Therefore, you get the same energy as point A. Okay. So it again repeats itself, the entire thing. So that is how you do energy calculations in a problem. This numerical values of A1, A2, A3 will be given to you. So energy at point G equal to energy at point A. The cycle repeats itself again. Okay. So let us assume the greatest energy in the flywheel is at point B. Least energy is at point E. Here I am telling, if you don't, so in a problem, you will know this. The values will be given, you will subtract and find out. Maximum answer is, how much, where is it given? Greatest energy point is B. Least energy point is E. So now these two answers, if you subtract, you will get maximum fluctuation of energy. Okay, so maximum fluctuation, maximum energy is E plus A1, point B. Maximum energy point, let us say at this point the energy is maximum. Don't just theoretically you understand that it is on this line, how it can be maximum. E plus this entire energy, A1. The numerical answer is maximum. Okay, that we will understand only when we do the problem. Similarly, minimum energy point, plus minus. At point A, I get the maximum minimum answer, not maximum, minimum answer. That is taken here, minimum energy. So now what is delta E or maximum fluctuation of energy? Maximum energy minus minimum energy. The difference. E plus A1 minus E plus A1 minus A2 plus A3 minus A4. So that is A2 minus A3 plus A4. Delta E. That's the areas, knowledge of the areas alone, you can find out the maximum fluctuation of energy for the given engine. I think you it's simple plus minus. The addition subtraction, you will understand when we go there. Okay. So now with this delta E known, I am going to introduce another parameter, coefficient of fluctuation of energy. How much percentage of torque is fluctuating with respect to the mean torque? Okay. So coefficient of fluctuation of energy is nothing but a percentage value of this fluctuation of energy, delta E. Coefficient of fluctuation of energy C suffix E equal to maximum fluctuation of energy divided by work done per cycle. Okay, what is work done per cycle? You come to this graph, you know, work done equal to area under the curve. You would have studied somewhere. So you take this graph, so mean torque line, you get this rectangle, right? Area under the curve up to the mean torque line. If you find out this area of the rectangle L into B, that is nothing but work done per cycle. What is the minimum required work to keep the engine moving? Is the assured minimum work per cycle. Whatever is available above that is excess. Okay. So now that is your work done per cycle. I think you understand. Area under the curve with mean torque line considered. Okay. Now we come back here. What is the formula for percentage of coefficient of fluctuation? Coefficient of fluctuation of energy, maximum delta E you have found out in the last slide. Maximum energy minus minimum energy points. Now that difference in energy divided by this rectangle area work done per cycle. It will give you answer. It gives you an answer in percentage. Okay. So work done per cycle may be found out by one of the following two methods. So T mean into theta angle turn, where mean torque T mean equal to 2 pi nt by 60. From that you find out the torque if you know the engine power reverse way. Okay. Theta equal to angle turned. Work done per cycle equal to P into 60 by N, where N equal to number of working strokes per. This you have to listen. You please carefully listen to this small n. Small n is nothing but number of working strokes per minute. Okay. So this can be, we will see in the next slide. I will explain that. So if it is equal to capital N in case of a steam engine and two-stroke IC engine, which is the small n, is equal to capital N. Yeah, capital N is the RPM of the engine. These two will be equal if you get one power stroke per revolution. It happens in steam engine and two-stroke engine. One power stroke per revolution. The value of the small n. Okay. Or for a four-stroke engine, it is capital N by 2 because one power stroke per 2 revolution of the crankshaft. So small n is the measure of number of power strokes happening within 1 minute. Capital N is revolutions per minute. If it is a two-stroke engine, you will get same amount of power strokes per revolution of the crankshaft. You will get one power stroke in a two-stroke engine. Correct. So therefore, that is equal to N in case small n is equal to capital N for a two-stroke engine or a steam engine. In case of a four-stroke engine, for 2 revolutions of the crankshaft only, you will have one power stroke. Therefore, small n equal to capital N by 2 in case of a four-stroke engine. Okay. So some standard values of coefficient of fluctuation of energy. You don't have to by heart this. This is for just your knowledge it is given. Single cylinder double acting steam engine, variation in power is 21%. Okay, it is not 0.21. 21% of energy will fluctuate about the mean torque. So the within one revolution of your wheel, 20% of energy will be fluctuating. It is very, very bad. Okay, this number should be as less as possible. Only then you will have consistent rotation of the engine. Otherwise, you will feel that the vehicle is shaking front and back. That's why steam engine used to shake front and back because of this fluctuation of energy. Okay, cross compound steam engine 0.096, 9.6%. Single cylinder, single acting four-stroke engine 1.93. See how much fluctuation of energy is there? 193% energy is fluctuating. Single cylinder, single acting four-stroke engine, gas engine. Four-cylinder, single acting engine, it is 6.6%. Six-cylinder engine, it is 3.1%. Okay, keep all these things. You don't have to remember these numbers. Just understand when you increase the number of cylinders, your fluctuation of energy is going down. That's what you have to remember. Okay. I'm going to give you a small introduction about flywheel. Now, how do you overcome this fluctuation? when you put a wheel on the crankshaft outside the engine, the crankshaft is, I'm going to add a very big wheel to that. Now this wheel is used as a reservoir to store the energy. When you get a large amount of energy, excess energy above the mean torque line is used to rotate this wheel. Okay, so that when you have a lack of energy, when the torque goes below in the other strokes other than power stroke, this flywheel will supply the energy with its momentum. Okay, that is the basic idea. You make it spin when you have a lot of energy, and the spinning of the wheel is used to drive the engine during the period when you don't have the energy. That is the basic idea for using a flywheel. Okay, so parts of the flywheel, you just look at the diagram: rim, hub, and radius of the flywheel, arm. All these things you have to know. Okay, theoretically. So there is not much thing there available to you explain to you about flywheel right now. Energy stored in a flywheel, I'm going this small self-explanatory derivation is there. How do you find out the energy stored in a flywheel? I don't think it is very difficult. You can just read it and understand. Energy stored equal to half into, let's say, kinetic energy. In rotation, what is kinetic energy? Half mv square is kinetic energy. For rotating object is half I omega square. I is inertia, omega is angular velocity. So I'm splitting this I mk square. Okay. So finally, we will get a formula for so for a flywheel, energy stored on a flywheel is mk I omega square into cs, where cs is the percentage of fluctuation of energy. Okay, mk square is nothing but I, mass into radius of gyration square, into omega square. Okay, cs. So delta E equal to 2E cs. Now this you will have multiple formulas here. Okay, so E formula is half I omega square, half mv square, kinetic energy formula. Now if I strike out this 2, you are having this I omega square here into cs. Okay, so therefore what I am doing, I am cross multiplying this 2 here, 2E. The same formula is written here. Okay, how it is written? I know that E equal to half mv square or half I omega square. This is a general formula irrespective of the derivation. Send this 2 this side, it will become 2E equal to I omega square. So replace that here. So instead of mk square omega square or I omega square, I am going to put 2E multiplied by cs. This is another way to write the same formula. It depends on what data is available to you. Multiple formulas can be used for the same problem. Okay. So mr square omega square cs or mv square cs. Any velocity is given in linear form. There are multiple formulas. If you put, instead of omega, you put 2 pi n by 60, you will get pi square by 900. This is just the expansion of the previous formula. Okay. So I'm going to recollect the formula. Delta E, maximum fluctuation of energy. Maximum energy minus minimum energy. Coefficient of fluctuation of energy, maximum fluctuation of energy divided by work done per cycle. Okay. So you have to remember this when you are doing the problems. So work done per cycle equal to T mean into theta. Theta should be in radians when you are doing calculation. Okay. Work done per cycle, number of working cycles, actually this is small n. P into 60 by n. Work done per cycle, power into 60 by number of working cycles. Okay. P into 60 by small n. Mean torque, P by omega. Mean speed during the cycle in RPM, N1 plus N2 by 2. So what is N1? Lowest possible speed. N2 is the highest possible speed. Or the other way around. You take an average, you will get mean speed. Okay. Mean angular speed during the cycle in radians, omega 1 plus same formula in omega terms. Same formula. The coefficient of fluctuation of speed, Cs, N1 minus N2 by N or omega 1 minus omega 2 by omega. Same, both cases are possible. Maximum fluctuation of energy has multiple formulas depending on the which problem you are doing. I omega square cs or mk square omega square cs or 2e cs or pi square by 900 mk square n square into n1 minus n2. All these are exactly the same. If you look into each thing, they are just written in a different form using some mathematical relationship. The general formula is same. This is the same formula. Instead of I am writing mk square. Okay. Here instead of half mv square, half mk square, 2 times it becomes 2 times the kinetic energy. Instead of mk square, I am putting 2 times the kinetic energy because kinetic energy is half into mk square. Okay. So 2 times the energy. In place of this omega, if I put 2 pi n by 60, I will get this formula. Pi square by 900 mk square n square into n1 minus n2. Okay. So depending on the data available in a given problem, you can use one of these multiple formulas.